You're listening to the Spotless Podcast, where cleanliness is always next to podliness. Now, here are your hosts, Hannah Brooks Olson and Andrew Walsh.
Hannah, at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to tie this into the holiday season more than necessary, do I have it right that you've been home alone recently? Your partner was out gallivanting on the East Coast or something like that, and you were basically a bachelorette for a while there?
Yeah, Keith forgot I was in the attic, and he left to go to Paris, and he was halfway over the ocean when he realized. No, he was traveling for work last week or 2 weeks ago, and so he was gone for a few days, which, yeah, when you live together, and you have lived together for almost 10 years at this point, when your partner is out of town for several days, I don't know if you experienced this, but like I get a little like feral. Like I get a little it's a strange feeling. While he was gone, I stained our bathroom cabinets on purpose. I had a project to do our bathroom cabinets. Yeah. Which went okay. They're not the greatest quality cabinets. Eventually, we're going to just replace them, remove them, but I hate them every time I'm in the bathroom. They were this really, like, circa 2003, like, bright, sort of reddish, golden, and, like, the original stain that was on them was all kinds of messed up, and so I had a little project while he was gone.
I love that your idea of being feral is being productive.
He's doing a project.
Yeah.
Well,
but this actually does tie in with what you've told me kind of about your relationship, and I think this has been on air. Maybe I'll spill some tea off air, but that Keith is very much into home improvement, but sees it very holistically. Like, I don't even want to limp. Maybe we had this conversation about these exact cabinets. I don't recall exactly. But just this idea that, like, yes, we both agree as members of this family that this is a problem area of the house. But you would be like, well, let's at least do a down and dirty, temporary, quick, some sort of resuscitation of the situation, exactly, or something. Whereas Keith is like, I'm not even going to dirty my hands with that. Let's just hold off because we're going to do a whole home reno of this part of the house in 5 years.
Yeah, that is precisely the dynamic. Whereas I would rather just paint something, put new hardware on something, like sort of make it a little nicer, get rid of the bathroom mirror that I've complained about a million times, in favor of just something nicer but not permanent. Whereas Keith is content to leave everything exactly as it is until you remodel the entire thing, which would be fine if we were independently wealthy and we could just remodel whatever.
So you're not
no, regrettably I forgot to marry into money, and so
that is a regretful situation.
Yeah, I know, I should have maybe thought that through better. But so things like the bathroom, which is perfectly functional but just outdated and I don't love it, has to wait until things that are important, like the roof, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
A thing you have to replace sometimes.
You have to, and it's so not satisfying, right? You don't get to look at it every day. You just know that, well, I needed to do it.
Yeah. The only thing that'll be different is we won't have a little bit of water intrusion in the attic. Which I guess
is really important. More on water intrusion in a second. But I love this idea. I love delving into how people feel when their partner is away, because I have pretty strong feelings about it myself. And again, keep in mind, Genevieve and I, it's similar to your situation. We don't have kids. We don't have we don't have a lot of adult responsibilities other than keeping ourselves alive and employed and generally healthy, right? And so when Genevieve, let's say she's got a little trip on the books, there's no reason for me to look forward to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I'm going to do that I couldn't do with her here in the home, right?
Right.
But I get excited. I'm like, oh, there's my Andy times on the calendar. And yes, maybe it's a little bit like there are some things, like, again, Genevieve doesn't police my behavior at all. I can sleep as late. I mean, on weekends, I sleep so late on weekends, your head would spin. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so shameful as an adult how late I will sleep in on a weekend, whether Genevieve's here or not. But I do think that maybe not having the watchful eyes of another person maybe eliminates some, like, just low-lying guilt that one has when one gives themselves over to whatever hedonistic behavior they want to engage in.
It is sort of the thing of just nobody watching. I do feel like that's the big difference. And also just like, I don't know, nobody monitoring your comings and goings. Like, if I want to take the dog to one of her favorite establishments and we just like kick it and hang out there for a while, like that's fine. I just feel like there are so many, because I get like, Keith and I enjoy each other's companies. We're we like have fun together, but there is something about just like knowing there's not going to be someone, and especially because like I lived alone for a lot of years before we lived together, so I did get very used to sort of doing things, in my own time and in my own way. And also when somebody else is gone, it is a lot easier to like do a project, especially if it's one that doesn't, like staining my cabinets was a multi-day affair of not having cabinets in the bathroom or like not having cabinet doors in the bathroom and having tools around. And like, I would feel really bad if I wasn't picking up all of my tools and everything behind me as I was going if he were there. But in his absence, I didn't feel so bad about just sort of docking things around and then doing a cleanup afterwards, which I know, again, he would not judge me for at all. It is fully just the watchful eyes of somebody else.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it's funny because it sounds like you're a little bit more like Genevieve. When I go out of town, I think Genevieve used to not look forward to it because she doesn't like living alone, whereas I had lived alone for a long time. And now I think she does look forward to it for the exact reason you're describing. I think she gets up to projects of some sort. You got to install this, or you know what I mean. So she's very productive, but also but she's different than you in that she has no desire to keep necessarily like kind of keep things clean. And so she's even said that like when I'm gone, she just stacks dishes everywhere. Like, it's just like she can go feral the way that you say. Whereas I'm the opposite. I'm like, when I have the house to myself, I am just, everything is always tidy, and that's my favorite thing. It's just like everything, I can leave something somewhere and just know like, oh, this clean surface is going to remain a clean surface. I'm not going to just like turn around and then suddenly there's going to be a bunch of dishes magically appearing in the sink for me.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I clean for sure when I'm by myself because it's a good time to do it because you're not sort of underneath anybody else. I also did, some closet reorganization. I did some, like I pulled out a bunch of donation things, and which again aren't like, I feel like it's good to do those things when someone's not there because you can also kind of spread it out. Like the entire bedroom floor was covered in my clothes as I was figuring out like what to donate and where to, where things were going to go.
That's satisfying.
Yeah,
a real closet clean out.
It felt really good. I highly recommend it as like an end of year thing, especially like I've been on a real, I stopped buying fast fashion like 5 years ago, but I now almost exclusively buy my clothes secondhand. I, try not to buy stuff as like a way of coping with the world. Turns out that participating in capitalism is not like the best way to feel better about capitalism. So I've been trying.
It's like banging yourself in the head with a hammer because you have a headache.
Exactly right. And so, but that also means that like I'm trying to be very conscientious about like what I hold on to and what I'm putting back, sort of into the ether. So it felt really good to just sort of like start the year, like that. And this is our last Spotless show before the end of the year. So we won't be recording until
New Year.
January. Yeah.
But you will be on TBTL, I should mention. My other podcast next Monday, a week from today. Looking forward to that. But that will be still 2025. So you and I will have a chance to podcast more. So if you've never checked out TBTL, but you enjoy hearing Hannah and I talk, maybe try that next Monday. But I did want to circle back around to the cabinet situation because knowing that like you said, Keith wouldn't stop you from doing these cabinets necessarily. You just like having the freedom and space to do it on your own. And so he's home now, right? Like, was there any like conversation? Oh, this looks good, or I'm glad you did this when I was away, or any acknowledgement that it's changed?
He has made it very clear he doesn't care. He didn't care about them before. He didn't have a problem with them before. Mostly he, I think, was a little annoyed because there was still some of like the fumes, and so for a few days we had to have like the bathroom window open once I put the cabinet doors back on. No, I honestly don't think that he thinks of it as a particularly good use of my time, but I feel better about it. So,
but net neutral though, not negative about it. Not like, oh, I liked it better the old way.
I think he might have actually liked it better the old way, but again,
really?
I don't care. Yes,
really, but you don't care. Okay,
They
so not a lot of
just-
conversation.
No, and again, he's really not. He's just not interested in that like incremental, little fixes like that. Like they just don't. He wants to do the whole thing, or he wants to do it not at all. And I am the opposite. Like I want to make improvements as we go. I am constantly, looking for things to improve. I also like having a project. I like doing little projects like that. I have a couple of other, now that I've like done it, I have a few other like furniture pieces that we have that don't really match. So I'm going to try and do some more of that. But yeah, I think generally speaking, like household projects, he's just not hugely interested in.
Now, what is going on with your tarp situation? And of course, when I say tarp, I am of course talking about the temporary asset relief program, I believe is what it was called.
Temporary assets. Yeah, I don't remember what that was.
I regretted making that joke. If you were wondering what you were hearing there, that was Andrew starting to make a joke, then realizing he didn't have the memory to finish it, to make a 2008 era Obama administration joke. Wasn't that what TARP was?
I mean, no, that might have. Well, yeah, because it was probably during the recession.
Yeah,
Good God.
the
Anyway,
building out. Anyway, so but you have a real
several
tarp.
economic recessions ago.
Yes, right. Speaking of capitalism, so last time we talked, we were maybe what turned out to be more at the beginning of this thing called an atmospheric river here in the Pacific Northwest. Tons of rain, tons of wind and destruction. And last you and I talked, you were worried about that water getting into the house, but I apologize if I wasn't a very good listener. Had you seen water seepage, or you were just thinking ahead?
Yes. So at previous times, when people think about the Pacific Northwest, they often think about rain. And so I need to be very clear that this is something that has really not garnered, I don't think, nearly enough national attention. But in this last go round of really big rain, I mean, there are entire cities of Washington and Oregon that are flooded out. There are highways that are gone. Like there's been really intense flooding. We don't live near a river, so this is not an issue for us. However, the sheer volume of water hitting the ground is just too much for the soil to absorb. So the water is going to go anywhere else that it can. So previously when this has happened, we've gotten water intrusion like from our foundation down into our kind of storage room area, like into our basement. And it's usually a trickle, like it's a small amount. So we will typically just sort of put towels down. It's not a huge deal, but obviously it's not great. So this time, knowing it was going to be really big, Keith had actually had the idea to put the tarp up so that it would catch the rain on. So our driveway is on the side of our house, and that side of the house just tends to get like battered with rain. So when the rain is coming in sideways, it just goes like right down into the foundation. There's a crack in our driveway where the water collects and then just kind of shunts right down. Yeah. So Keith had this idea, but then he was out of town, so I put the tarp up.
Can you explain how you positioned it? I don't think we talked too much. Is it running from the roof line down to the ground?
No, so it's on the ground. So okay, our house has the driveway runs clear along the side of the house. So, and we have a side door, like a kitchen door,
and that's your main door, probably for your comings and goings.
For me, because I parked my car right there. Yes, okay. Keith uses the front door more. And then so that side of the house is where the rain just tends to batter. We don't have like a big tree on that side. We have a big tree on the other side that really protects the ground a little better. And this side of the house is just very exposed, and that's like the direction the rain tends to come in. So the tarp is up against the house, and it is keeping the water from getting at the foundation. So that's what it's for. It is keeping the water from collecting in the driveway and then sort of funneling into the foundation. If people are visual types, I can put a picture on the website. So, and I had so I have the tarp up against the house. I have some bricks that are holding the tarp to the house so that when the rainwater comes down sideways like this, it just collects onto the tarp. It doesn't make it in. So initially I had it where we had previously had water intrusion, which is on the west side of the stairs. Then we wrapped up podcasting. Last time we were doing this, it was really coming down outside. It was like really intense at that moment. And I walked around to the, like in my little guest room down here where I record. This is the guest room / my office. It is downstairs. It is in the basement. I have a big window that's a mode of egress. So the window opens, but it's like halfway in the ground. There's like a big window well. So I walked around this room to just like pick stuff up, and the carpet was wet.
Oh, God.
And I was like, we've never had water intrusion on the east side of the stairs before. Mm-hmm. So then I had to get out and readjust the tarp. And then since then, it has done a pretty bang-up job. We just left it up because we knew we were going to get into another atmospheric river, which is supposed to start today, I think.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be really windy. There's really big wind warnings. Yeah. So we've just left the tarp up. But there was a period during the rain last week where, I mean, there was a cool 4 inches of standing water in this tarp just chilling. And that was all water that would have gone right into our foundation and made its way, you know, into the drywall and into everything. So the tarp does not look amazing.
No.
But
I was going to ask you if that bothers you. But when you said you had when you had to adjust the tarp, did you actually by yourself with Keith gone? Did you have to like drag it to a different part of the house? Oh, God!
Had to drag
a wet tarp in the rain. You're dragging it by yourself.
I was out there in my like clogs, my rainproof clogs, and my big long raincoat. I looked like David the Gnome, and I had to drag it like probably 4 feet to the east.
Okay.
And then lay down the bricks and really try and get them like flush up against the house. But it is working. I mean, if you have an area of your house that's getting water intrusion because you have cracks or just because there's so much water, there's nowhere else to go, if you can collect it before it gets in your house, you will do yourself a really big favor. And so it's better. But I mean, with the volume of water we were having, it was almost impossible to keep, you know, it all out. But it seemed to work pretty well. And like I said, then I waited until it had been a couple of days, and then I had to like dump the tarp. And I didn't want to just dump it right back onto the house, so I had to kind of drag it and kind of slosh it.
Did you grab the corners, or as close as you could, the corners that were kind of closest to the house, and just like drag it so it emptied, like pull it upside down essentially across the lawn or driveway?
Down the driveway, just like down into the storm drain. So that was...
That sounds messy. How much is the aesthetic of this bothering you?
It's not so bad because it's around the side of the house. I think I'd feel different if it was, you know, in the front yard. And like I said, it's a gray tarp. It's not maybe I didn't say that, it's not a blue tarp.
I don't know if you mentioned that, but it's so funny. I've been picturing
it. Tarp.
Of course I'm picturing it bright blue. Of course I am. You nailed the misinformation that I was forming in my brain. I would have said it under a lie detector test that yes, Hannah has a blue tarp. I don't know why.
We have a gray tarp because, like I said, so last week, this is what we got. Last week we were talking about how you can just buy a new tarp, which is, you know, that was big.
You. You say you're not independently wealthy.
I know. We got that gray tarp money, new gray tarp money.
Once again, we're back to tarp funds. Okay.
I mean, see, there you go. I would say, though, if you live in a place where you potentially have like large amounts of rain, I've also seen, so we should be honest, everyone... If you are a homeowner or a home renter in a standalone or a semi-detached, really anything other than an apartment, you should own a tarp or two because they really, like, they are very inexpensive. I think this tarp cost maybe, I don't know, 40 American dollars because we got kind of a nice one. It's got some grommets on it so you can, like, hook it to stuff. But it is so useful to just have a large sheet of very heavy-duty plastic around because I've seen people use it if you know it's going to snow really bad, lay the tarp down before the snow hits, and then your walkway, you just move the tarp, and now you have a walkway, right? You can cover your car with it if it's going to snow and you're worried about like not being able to get out. Like there are so many... everyone needs a tarp. There's like a very non-zero chance. There's a non-zero chance I'm giving people tarps this holiday season, and like you're getting what you get.
All right, listen, and I'm really sorry about this. It was a quick bad joke that was supposed to be a brief mention, but since I dug in with this,
Good
we have to talk about what I got right and what I got wrong. You're going to be unshocked to hear that one of those columns is way longer than the other. It is not, I think I said temporary asset. It's the Troubled Asset Relief Program.
Asset. Yes.
I believe I tied it to Obama. It was actually signed into law by President George W. Bush.
Yeah,
I do believe I said 2008, and it was 2008. It was a component of the government's measures in 2008 to address the subprime mortgage crisis. It was about purchasing the toxic assets from financial institutions. So anyway, glad I took the show there, though. It was really worth it. I mean, that's the important thing, is that the joke was so good, it really had to take up this much of the show.
I mean, certainly. It is a real history lesson. Again, multiple economic crises ago, that's where we were. And, just as we all think about our own futures, it's good to know where we've been. I
was going to tell you something else that I totally forgot about. So maybe we should just move into the... It was tarp related, but like your real tarp related, not this bad tarp joke related. But you don't know what I'm going to do here, since I've already ruined the show, is just take this moment to reset and remind people how they can join this particular conversation. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. I knew if I just talked, I'd get there. Somebody did write in to say they were just going crazy listening to the end of the last episode we did, where I was confusing Pride and Prejudice with Sense and Sensibility. Yeah, I did want to say, like, my mistakes really are harming the world. Okay, you can make the world a better place by calling our Spotline. It's 508-469-9274. That's 508-HOW-WASH. You can call in with stories. We have a great story coming up about soup smells, by the way. I cannot wait to share with you. If you want to talk about how to eliminate smells from your house, if you have questions about how to clean something, but best yet, if you had advice for me and Hannah and the rest of the scrub jockeys, you can call our voicemail line 508-HOW-WASH and leave the voicemail there, or record a little voice memo on your phone and email it to us to spotlesspod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and you can check out the website spotlesspod.com.
Also, I was not using the Spotless Pod TikTok for quite some time because I lost the password for it, but I got back into it.
Nice.
So Spotless Pod is back also on TikTok.
Oh, nice. Fantastic. That's great. Yes, and what do they call it? Cleaning talk or something. There's a whole clean talk. There's a whole subset. I mean, we belong there, I assume. It seems like now it is going to. We probably lost the password when we weren't sure if it was going to survive that weekend about a year ago.
Yeah,
right?
There's been a few times where I've just been like, this app is terrible, and then but then I realize that is where people are, and then I get upset because people are talking about cleaning in a way that I feel like is not as good as we could do. So
yeah, well, that you can do, because I have no part of that. So thank you for doing it. Let's check in with the scrub jockeys.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top.
All right, we're going to talk about shovel-ready projects now. Just trying to go back to 2008. Last week on the show, you were talking, and it was your sort of question for me and I think the broader universe, about this time of year when we love getting cozy, we love making soups and other maybe slow cooking creations in our kitchens, and it feels so cozy and it smells good when it's cooking, and it's just like the ultimate winter experience until you leave for a few hours or a day and you come back and you're like, oh, that cozy soup smell is now just sort of a dank smell hanging in the air of my home, right? So how do we deal with the soup smells once they stop being so inviting? And we got this voicemail from listener Shauna that I'll be thinking about for like quite some time, if not the rest of my life. This is a great story.
Hi, Hannah and Andrew. This is Shauna from Tacoma, and I'm calling about the, what did Hannah say? I think it was the aroma fallout from soup season. A couple weeks ago, I made my first, roast, which then I did turn in the gravy and all the veggies and stuff into a soup. And I left my house to pick up my kids from school, and I thought, man, my house smells so good. I can't wait to come home to this. It's going to be amazing for dinner tonight. And I'm in the pickup line, standing with all the other parents, and the mom next to me was like, wow, do you smell that? Oh, it smells like soup.
Oh my God.
And I had a moment of panic trying to think of what to do, and I just fessed up and I said, I think it's me. I think it's me. I just made a roast. And she said, no, there's no way it's you. And then I had her smell my sweater, and it was me. And ever since then, even though it's cold and horribly rainy here, I've been cooking with all of my windows open, and then I have been changing my clothes before I leave the house to go anywhere every time I make soup. So, happy soup making.
I can't remember the last time I've been in a situation where I've had to ask a stranger to smell me.
I think I try and stay out of those situations as best as possible.
Yes.
So this reminds me, though, last time we were talking about this subject, and one of the things I had said was that, like, a lot of times when I'm cooking, Keith will come and turn on the hood fan over top of me because I just like it. I don't like cooking with the hood fan on. It's loud. It's annoying. It's another thing
loud.
for me to forget.
Doesn't and if you're listening to a podcast that's not maybe in your headphones, but like over the using a Bluetooth speaker or something, you turn on that hood fan, and boy, it's amazing how much it really that white noise really affects your listening.
And it can be very, like, intense when you're standing right underneath it. So I don't always do that. But then I was doing some research, like, for the show and for the website, because I was going to include some links. And I found several links that told me you should just always be cooking with the hood fan on. You should just always have the hood fan on, whether you use gas or not, but just in general, if you are cooking, you should have the hood fan on. And I cannot say I have adopted this because I love to not take my own advice, but it is something that I learned, and so I wanted to pass that on. I don't know if it'll necessarily help with the smell settling into your clothes, but this is a very good tie-in to a previous subject we talked about, which was inside clothes versus outside clothes.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing more and more, actually, that I do have inside clothes and outside clothes because I have clothes that I don't like to cook in, because of the smell, but also because of I'm a messy person, and my good shirts will end up stained without fail if I cook in them. Even with I was wearing an apron the other day while I was cooking, and I still got a stain on a shirt.
I was thinking about I don't have any aprons, but I told you last time we talked I was making a dish to take somewhere as an appetizer, but it was a little bit more cooking intensive, and I had to saute this chicken or whatever, and so I was worried about wearing the shirt because not just for grease and splashback, but also what Sean is talking about, the smell. Like, there's something about being in that cooking mode, but then going to a party. Like, I wanted an apron, but I didn't have one, so I just changed my shirt before I left.
Yeah, I really feel like I have developed specific outfits for around the house and leaving the house, especially if you have like a sweater. So I noticed this a couple months ago. I was visiting someone, and they were like cooking in their house while I was there, and I left, and it was all I could smell was like that smell on me. But it was because I was wearing like a fuzzy sweater, and it just traps the smell. So 1, hood fan; 2, inside clothes versus outside clothes, being aware of what is smelling like soup. But also, so we have gotten this tip from people in various industries, which is the like diluted vodka in a spray bottle to get rid of smells.
Oh, yeah.
We heard it from like costumers.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was one that we heard from our friend the gear healer or not, but like this idea of diluted vodka in a spray bottle. I am this close to starting to just have a bottle of that by the front door of my home, so that when I leave my house, I just like give myself a quick spritz to neutralize any odors that are stuck to me. I don't know if it'll be effective. I think it would. I mean, I've done it on coats before. I've also done it with like orange oil. Orange oil is pretty good at neutralizing odors. I know some people do it with vinegar. If you're doing it with vinegar or vodka, you probably want to give it a minute to dry down before you go out.
Yeah, be careful.
Because it won't continue to smell, but you do need to give it time to dry down.
Imagine getting pulled over right after you sprayed yourself down with vodka.
And you're like, no, it's because I was making soup. It's the soup defense.
Right. Wonder how many times, when your dad was a cop, did he hear the soup defense quite a bit?
I love the idea of you're giving someone like a roadside, like a field sobriety test, and they're like, no, dude, I swear it was just, I had soup sweater. I'm sorry. But yes, I've been thinking a lot about this subject as well, and this listener is exactly what I am worried about at all times. I am so worried I smell like soup all the time.
I know. It's such a specific. It's not even a bad smell, but it just doesn't belong on you in public at school. Yeah.
Yes. And like there's a couple of other smells that really will get in. I think soup is the big one because of like winter time and like it's what we do. But I've also had that issue if you're like one time I was making pancakes for my niece, and so I had like the butter like browning in the pan for a while, and like that butter smell was on me all day. I kept whiffing it, and I was like, I know that's me. So yes, I think having special things you cook in and keeping your clothing out of the kitchen is probably a good idea. The other thing I was finding in all my research last week after we were talking about this is also, again, I know I mentioned like vacuuming, cleaning your textiles, changing your bed sheets, spritzing down your drapes if you have drapes. With something that neutralizes odor, again, whether that's vinegar spray. Now, I do have a question for you, Andrew. I was reminded of this because I saw this recently on the internet. Have you ever used hypochlorous acid?
I've never heard of it.
Hypochlorous acid? Okay. So hypochlorous acid is a naturally occurring, powerful yet gentle disinfectant and sanitizer. I have recently seen multiple people using this acid diluted quite a bit in water because it can be a bleaching agent if it's not diluted enough. But it's much like the time when you bought a metric shit ton of citric acid.
Yes.
And you were like, what do I do with it?
A 5-pound bag, yep.
Yes. And so apparently you can buy hypochlorous acid in the same kind of way. You just buy like a lot of it. I think it comes in a jug, though. I think it comes liquidy. And then you water it down. And it's supposed to be a fantastic odor neutralizer. I've never used it. I'm curious if any of the scrub jockeys have, or if that's something I should be adding to my rotation.
And how would you use it? It's in powder form, so
no, it's a liquid, and so it comes in like a bottle, and you can buy it just like undiluted. People use it for skincare as like an antimicrobial, but I know that you can also use it on fabrics if it is diluted sufficiently enough. I've never done it, but I've seen many people in like the dog fostering community talk about using it as like a deodorizing agent on like their sofa or their carpet. So I'm curious if any of the scrub jockeys have ever used it or know anything about it.
Yeah, I'm interested too.
A warning or some advice.
Hit the Spotline or email us. I have a text message ready to send to you here because I want your reaction to this photo that I'm about to send you. And you might not have one. This might get into the age difference between us. But I told you that I spend a lot of time on a subreddit called Grandma's Pantry. And it's basically people just taking photos of old spice jars, cleaning products. It's like these, products that you just find in the back of like somebody in your family's pantry or whatever, and it's from like the 90s or maybe even older. Some of them go back to the 60s or whatever. And I was just scrolling the other day, and this popped up in my Reddit feed, and it was a can. And I'm thinking of it because it's an air freshener. And we're talking about, like you said, you're thinking about keeping like a spritzer of vodka, diluted vodka, next to the door as you walk out. And I was thinking, you don't want to do that with this. The people commenting on this said, oh my God, I can smell this photo when somebody took a photo of this and posted it to the subreddit. I'm sending it to you now. And I'm curious whether or not you have the same reaction, because I saw this and I was like, oh shit, that was the smell of a certain phase of my, I would say, childhood or young adulthood. This is a can of Glade potpourri spray. What is it? This one is Country Garden. I swear we had this exact can in our house.
So this photo that you've sent, which I'll put on the website, I might also put it on Instagram just to torture people with these sent memories, which I know you also have. First of all, the person taking the picture has taken it up against a very grandmotherly wallpaper. So
yes,
the
which I
itself
love.
Is really of a time.
It could be Grandma Walsh's house, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So remember a while back when you described the like apple cinnamon Glade scent as being very suburban? Like
yes.
It's a smell that sounds like a townhome, like a suburban townhome. This one smells like, Grandma's powder room. This smells like me trying on 9 different expired Avon lipsticks that my grandmother had in mauve and berry shades. It has this like berry colored. Also, just do you remember when you were a kid how potpourri was the funniest word you'd ever heard, read, seen, or knew of?
Yes,
there was nothing. Funny
the way it's poked, and it looks like somehow it evokes poop, even though it really doesn't.
Well, you often would put it in the bathroom, though. That's the thing. It is sort of it's the name really fits the thing, and I don't think people really use potpourri as a scent. I know more people prefer like simmer pots or, oil burners or something, which I will say I recently got an oil burner that's a plug-in to the wall. It's like a nightlight, but it has a little ceramic dish on top, and you just put the the scented oil cube on it, and it is great. I love it. So a plug-in for this plug-in. I have it in the kitchen, and it's really lovely. I will link to that on the website as well.
And Grove finally has our replacement pods for that.
Yes.
What is it?
For the other,
EnviroScent air fresheners. They finally got more of those. Because I kept putting them in my checkout cart, and then they would disappear at checkout. They'd be like, this product is no longer available. And so now I'm like hoarding them. The back of this Glade can, by the way, I don't know if you can zoom in based on the link that I sent you, but it does say copyright 1988 on the back of the can. But first of all, it's got a little label that says contains no propellant alleged to damage the ozone. Again, this is 1988. And then it says this product contains 31% VOC. And I don't remember what VOC exactly stands for, but that's the aerosol stuff you do not want. And that's why a lot of people in the comments were like, I can smell this photo and it's giving me cancer.
Yeah,
just from seeing it.
Volatile organic compounds, I think. It's basically like this isn't an exact comparison, but it is sort of like the way we think now about like PFAS and like forever chemicals.
Yes.
It was kind of the airborne version of that, but it was in people used VOCs for everything because it was just a way to get smells around. But it's so funny because I remember also, do you remember how there was a Jeopardy category called potpourri? And it just meant, a little bit of everything.
It would be a little, yes.
A little mismatch. That is how I first learned I had heard potpourri my whole life. And then I remember watching Jeopardy when I was like 6 with my mom. And that's when I learned what that word looked like. And it was, I think, the funniest thing I had thought of in ages. And it's still... The idea of like a little dish in a bathroom full of just like dried rose petals and like chips of wood is so bygone.
I think we had that too. That's the thing. Like I am guessing that, let's see, 1988 is when this particular can was marketed or whatever. So maybe I'm still pretty young then. I was wondering if I remember the air freshener
1 year old, by the way. I'd like to say I was a year old.
In 88. Okay. I've got like I got like 10 years on you. So, but I think of this as more of a 90s thing. I mean, it's 88. Yeah. So I remember some Lysol that I had, like this big can of Lysol that me and my dad had because we lived in a small apartment after my parents got a divorce. Don't worry, I'm fine. Like, I'm working out with a therapist. But my folks got a divorce, and then me and my dad lived in this small, it was literally a 1-bedroom apartment, in fact. And at one point I had the bedroom and he slept on the fold-out couch. Originally, I slept on the fold-out couch. It was real Bachelor Arms kind of situation.
Truly.
And then when we brought a cat into the situation, when we adopted Alex, Alexander Francis Walsh, the cat.
The third.
He was the first, but he was named after my Uncle Frank. The middle name did come from my Uncle Frank.
Funny.
But I remember, it was a smaller place, and so we had to put a litter box kind of kind of by the front entryway, and we had this can of Lysol. And Lysol didn't go in for the niceties usually of this like Glade potpourri. The Lysol was more like industrial strength smell.
Yes.
Like it smells like chemicals, but it's just like it's
like
not
a hospital. Yeah.
Yes. So I remember that, but I don't know when we would have had this potpourri spray can, but I definitely know that I've held this can before. But I also know, and I'm guessing this was in our house, at least around the holidays, or maybe family members that we visited, but actual bowls of potpourri, like you said, like the wood chips and the rose petals in there. Yep. I know we had them because I can still sort of feel them. You know what I mean? They probably sat atop a toilet tank or something.
Yes. And it's, as a kid, you always a little bit wanted to eat it.
Yes, it was a little bit like a candy. Yeah.
It's like, why isn't this chips?
Yes, why isn't this chips? That's the most Homer Simpson thing you've ever said. Why isn't this chips?
Why is this bowl in the bathroom not chips? I thought everyone just had bathroom chips waiting around.
Toilet snacks. That's
the closest. The closest you get, I feel like, to that today is, especially this time of year, when you're walking into a store and suddenly you get hit with that like very like sort of artificial Christmas smell, and then you look around and you realize somewhere there's a bag of scented pine cones.
Oh, sure.
Which,
I know
like,
what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm dying to know. who buys bags of scented pine cones? And if someone in your family or you do, please call in and tell us. Because I have always really wondered when you walk into a store and there's just a bag,
I bet you a lot of people,
of scented pine cones. It's such a specific holiday thing, and I just have always wondered who gets them.
Am I picturing them right too? Do they have a little bit of like glitter on them as well?
Sometimes they have glitter.
Those
You would
like
probably
maybe just on the tips, maybe.
Yeah, and you'd put them. I mean, they're literally pine cones that just are very fragrant, and you, as soon as you smell it, you're like, oh, that's scented pine cone smell. Like that just is. It's this like sort of amalgam of scents, and I think you use them in probably centerpieces and potpourri. But
Put them in a basket by the door.
Yeah, but I don't think I've ever actually entered a home that had them.
Oh, I think I have. I think I traverse in certain circles of suburbia that maybe you have been protected from, because
I'm not really. I don't go over great in suburbia. I'm not really made for suburbia.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I don't know if that's a story for the show.
So obviously you're going to tell it.
I kind of guess I have to now because I don't want to do that, but it's a real cringe story for me. So I had a crush on this girl in college, and she was part of my friend group. I don't remember the ins and outs, and I also don't have to get into all of it. But all I remember is my parents at the time, my dad and my stepmom, were living in this house that was like just the ultimate, like, early 2000s suburbia, like a cul-de-sac, beige, that generic beige roundabout streets. You pull in off a main road, and then all the streets are like that beige. I can't describe the cul-de-sac better than that, but literally that was it. And then like some sort of like McMansion-y kind of situation. And I grew up in the country, but then my parents did buy sort of a McMansion-y house when I was maybe in 8th grade for a little bit. This is pre-divorce, whatever. Then my dad sort of remarried and moved into another one of those things, and I just didn't think about it critically. I was like, I don't know, like it was just like this. And I remember hanging out with this girl a lot, and we went to her family's place at one point, which was like a farmhouse. Like it was clear that her parents, like they had a lot of taste in this more of a like kind of a farmer hippie kind of way, I would say. Like I remember I don't remember details, but I remember some huge barn that also maybe they were working on a classic car in there, and it was probably it probably had like this, I almost wonder if this is what your grandfather's spaces were like, sort of like they were sort of unkempt but very cool and eclectic in this way. And then I remember her coming to visit my parents, which is the opposite of that, and also like clean to this level of probably annoyingness or whatever. And her like having a really, I can't even remember what it was. I think we even got into it a little bit. She had a very negative reaction to visiting my folks in this place, in this home that I never really lived in. And I truly did not understand it. And I think it took decades. And this is something that for some reason it came up in my, I do this thing before I go to bed, which is my brain just scans starting from the moment I was born up until the moment I'm laying awake. It just scans for embarrassing moments to latch onto. And I think it did that at some point, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, of course. And I mean, I can't even think of her name right now, but I liked her a lot. And she was cool, and unlike somebody I'd met before, but now suddenly I'm like, oh, of course, this woman who did not, she was a young woman at the time, college age, but like she grew up in such a vastly different, and I would argue more interesting sort of upbringing than I did. And I was like, I almost felt like looking back now, I did not feel at the time. I was confused by her negative reaction and maybe turned off by it. But now I think of like, I probably came across as AJ in The Sopranos. Do you know AJ? Can you kind of picture that character or whatever?
Yes.
Just like so blunt, just like, I don't know. Just like, I don't care. Stupid McMansion,
I
Anyway.
feel like that is also deeply Gen X. That is a very Gen X reaction to
hers
to
I
like
could see that.
suburbia. Every time I like watch a movie, like a Brat Pack movie, like an 80s, 90s, the bad guy is always capitalism in this very specific conformist way. And so I feel like that was very generational, that there was a lot of folks who are like you said, like about 10 years older than I am, who for whom the idea of like, I mean, it's literally the plot of Reality Bites, basically, is like the desire to not sell out, right?
Yeah,
and then your girlfriend, Janine Garofalo, works at the Gap in that movie. And it's like a big deal that they're like she like is management at the Gap, like sell out.
So basic.
So basic. And so I feel like that is not a surprising reaction. But I also, when I was a young person, and I was not as, hadn't been to therapy. I think from growing up kind of like raggedy, I also remember having a very big reaction to the guy I was dating in college, going to his parents' house, and they had like an exquisitely suburban home. It was so much nicer, but like in a quiet luxury way than anything I'd ever experienced. And I immediately I found it all so objectionable, because I was someone who, one, was insecure about my own upbringing, but two, had sort of like forced myself into this thought of like, houses that are too nice, like something must be going on there. Like it was like a distrust, when in fact it was just some people who had done well for themselves and had, good taste.
Did it see? This is the taste thing, and I want to protect my parents here. And I don't think that they are hardcore Spotless listeners, but I don't want to be rude about it either. But I do think that a big part of it wasn't just money. And again, it's not like my parents are super rich, but again, they did fine. But I think it was just sort of what I would now see as a very like not particularly tasteful or kind of old school charm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And so what I'm getting at here with you, and this is really what I'm talking about, like when you were at this person's home, because let me put it this way. When I became a slightly older kid or like a young man, and I started dating Genevieve in my early 20s, I remember her taking me to some places when she was living on the East Coast or in New England, and visiting some people's homes who were clearly very well off, but also what you would call like kind of old money or whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
Not what my family was, which was like just incredibly suburban,
yes,
literally Cleveland suburbs, in a tradition of almost like that white flighty 30 years, 20 years after white flight, just that genericness,
yes.
I think, So
yes.
what was your situation? Did you feel like a little bit like, oh, this person is more like kind of classy, or was it more or
it
less that?
Felt, I mean, again, I think it depends on where you're coming from, because like we talked about last episode, like where do pillows come from? I don't know. You just have a pillow for forever. There were just things that I never considered, certainly purchasing new, but let alone purchasing a nice version of. And so like I remember this guy I was dating, his parents were going to buy him like a new end table or something. And so we all went to Pottery Barn in Everett, Washington, because of course we did. And I had never been in a Pottery Barn before. I remembered there was a Friends episode where Pottery Barn plays a pretty crucial element, because Phoebe is very upset that Pottery Barn mass produces things that she thinks you should be able to buy vintage. And so I remember going in and being like, like I have an idea of what this is like. And just being so agog at the prices of things, because furniture was another one of those things that you don't just go buy. Like furniture either appears on a street corner, somebody else had it and you took it. The idea of having furniture objects in your home that match was so far afield for me. Like I grew up for a long time, my end table in my bedroom was literally an old barrel, like a wooden barrel, with a pillowcase over it, so that you wouldn't get splinters. Like that was like.
And the good news is, if things got really bad, you could wear that barrel too as a last resort.
I also
put on some shoulder straps.
I did keep a large amount of whiskey in it, and I would just tap it when I was in need. But like that, so I do think there's like something about, like I wouldn't have known whether or not it was good taste, because I was so blinded by just the perceived expense of it all. And the other thing is too, when you are poor or broke or whatever, however you want to refer to it, any purchasing power has the potential to feel aggressive. When other people have the means to have matching end tables, to buy new furniture, it feels like a little bit of an affront sometimes when you are struggling. So it almost doesn't really matter what like the value or the quality is. It just feels like something I can't have and something. Yeah. And so I do feel like also there's something about like turning yourself against it in your mind where it's like, I can't have it, but I didn't want it anyway. Right. Like I was that kind of like, I was such a snot and for no reason other than that I had a chip on my shoulder. Right. And now the older I get, the more I'm just like, oh my God, whatever. So I think there's something to that too. But I think in the case you're describing, I really feel like it's more a matter of like that sort of Gen X feeling of eschewing conformity, you know, and that like suburban, everybody having the same thing, everybody kind of that like idea of keeping up with the Joneses was something that specifically your generation like notoriously turned against.
And I do think in this particular case, the woman's name was Ellen, by the way, I'm just remembering that. I don't think, because I just admit that this is kind of a luxury in and of itself, or a privilege in and of itself. I didn't think about class that much, right? Because I think you don't have to. And so at the time, I was confused by her reaction to this very much, and it makes a lot of sense to me now. But it's my understanding now that it didn't have to do with money. I can't tell what her family's financial background was. Like, I just have this vague memory of being like, oh, wow, your whole family situation is like an awesome fun house, sort of. And I don't know what that says about their financial situation. I don't remember feeling like, oh, these folks have less money than us. I think it was more of just and I know this is a more modern word to describe this Gen X feeling, but it was just that the situation that we presented was just basic as hell. Yeah. It was just like the most, you know what I mean? Like if she had come to visit me and it was kind of like, okay, maybe we had some amount of money as a family or whatever, but it was like my dad's, I don't know what the other stereotype would be, but like my dad has a jazz record collection and it's constantly restoring an old car in the garage or whatever. I don't think it was so much the presence of money, but just the absolute genericness. It was just like the Sears
dust ruffle and the, you know,
even less country kitsch than that, because this is like the 90s now, you know, and it's more like I don't know what it is. It's like the every homeowner having 4 leaf blowers or whatever, you know, so that you can just that whole situation.
Well, I know how proud of the lawn. Wasn't your dad a real lawn
Yes,
guy?
Although this was I believe this was a non-lawn situation because it was a house.
Non-lawn situation. 4 non-lawns.
All right. Anyway, I don't.
It was weird when she walked up to your house though, and she was like, "What's going on?"
She did say, and it was a fair question, honestly. All right, so let's. That was a weird tangent to go on, but it is one of those things, one of those rare moments where it was just literally a moment of my youth, let's say young adulthood, that I'd sort of forgotten about. And then at some point as an adult, remembering that moment and being like, yeah, I was embarrassed about that, but confused and being like, oh, it makes total sense now. I didn't have a certain context for the world back then to see whatever she was seeing, right? And I'm sorry if this story ends up sort of taking my family down a peg. I didn't mean to start off that way. All right, or end up that way. Let's move on and listen to one more voicemail here before we get out of here, because it's like a holiday week. We shouldn't even be working this hard. And the listeners are like, Walsh, we've been hearing you all episode. You're not working that hard. Okay. This is from a listener, Melly in New York. And Melly, this just has a little bit of context. Melly, I think we've played a voicemail from her on the show before. I know she was reluctant to join the Scrub Jockeys because she doesn't consider herself a super like uptight, clean person like you might describe myself. No, you don't. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We've often said cleanliness is a spectrum. It has to do with your own comfortability, and sometimes you just don't have it in you. So.
And Melly left this voicemail just thinking, I think, about the holiday season and people getting real trees versus fake trees. I can't remember. What's your situation? Genevieve here is she's very dedicated to getting a real tree every year. So now we look forward to doing that together.
We are a real tree family. We go to the Optimists lot. It's a nonprofit here in Portland that benefits, the funds all go to benefit like high school events, and the people who work there are always high schoolers, which is very cute.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's great. So we go specifically to this place every year.
How much do you tip the person who like cuts the end of the tree off and then carries it to your car?
We never do because it's charitable. Like we're not really supposed to there. Yeah. but we do usually like round it. We like round up a considerable
You can't round
amount
it
and
up,
add,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I might have overtipped this time, but we don't have to talk. Can you
No
overtip
such
though?
thing.
Really? Yeah,
no,
that's the thing.
you cannot. In this economy, there is literally no such thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is my reminder to all the scrub jockeys: tip your letter carrier, tip your favorite barista that you see every morning a little extra. Like, this is the time of year to round that out. If you are in a position to do so, drop that extra coin for the people in your life.
All right. So anyway, I don't know
Yes.
if I had to give all that context from Melly, but Melly was thinking about people who like to have fake trees because they're easier to clean up. But Melly has an argument for getting a real tree and why the cleaning up is actually a positive.
Hey, this is Melly. I was just thinking about people who are anti-real Christmas tree because of vacuuming up all the needles all the time. But the thing is then when you do it, especially, it kind of gets ground up in there, and then every time you turn on the vacuum cleaner, it smells really good, like pine needles. I was just remembering this because the other thing I like to do is I harvested some lavender and I like to throw that on the floor and crush it up and then vacuum that up, and then it just makes the air from the vacuum smell, like lavender. So I just thought, okay, you have to vacuum them up, but then it makes things smell even better. But anyway, I thought I'd share that. Okay, bye.
It's
Melly,
basically
I don't know.
potpourri.
Yeah, it's basically potpourri. I don't know if you would want to go this far if this just makes it sound like less fun, Melly. But honestly, what you're describing about, you said that you just gathered some lavender, which is awesome. And then I imagine it kind of dries out and you crinkle it onto the ground. That's cool. I mean, that stuff that I buy from Grove is basically lavender and baking soda, right? And so if you wanted to, Melly, you could add some baking soda to that, sprinkle it all over your, like we have this kind of grody wall-to-wall. It's not grody, but it's at this point pretty well worn wall-to-wall carpeting down here in the basement, and until we get rid of it, every now and then I will take some of that stuff and just sprinkle it, and it's baking soda and lavender, and just let it sit for maybe a half hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes even, and then vacuum it all up. That's actually very satisfying.
Yes,
too.
it is super satisfying, and it absorbs, again, ways to keep your house from smelling like soup or dogs. It does absorb the odors out of the carpet, the baking soda does. Lavender's a good one for it. If you have rosemary that's growing somewhere, you can dry that out and then munch it up in there. The other thing, well, two things. One, I feel like you warned me one time, Walsh. Didn't you kill a vacuum cleaner with too many pine needles, though? Isn't this something you warned me about many years ago, that if you vacuum too many pine needles, it can clog? I
think that rings the faintest of bells. I might have gotten into a bit of a clogging situation. I don't think I've ever ruined a vacuum cleaner.
Okay, because
it might have been a listener.
Maybe so. This is from at least 6 years ago. I'm remembering at this point. But I feel like we still don't, because of an episode of this show, we still don't vacuum up most of the pine. We sweep them and then put them outside, and then I'll vacuum at the end. So I would be cautious with that. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But the other thing is about real trees too, though, is that you can mulch them after you're done. So if you have in your yard blueberry bushes or anything that really likes highly acidic soil, taking some of those branches, letting them dry out, and then crunching them up around in the soil, it is a really good way to add acid back into the soil. I did it one time. One year I mulched my blueberries with our Christmas tree, and I got the most and I did put it around the soil in January, February, and then by the time they were blossoming in June-ish, it was the most blueberries I'd ever gotten. So
really?
That's my anecdotal experience. But yes, so if you have a tree and you have a yard, maybe give that a go. You might also, I'm going to try this year. I've never done it. I will try and make a video if I remember. I'm going to take some of the pine needles and keep them out to put in the loamy to see if that makes the loamy smell better.
Oh. That's something we need to talk about. That's something that I've been meaning to talk to you about on this show, in fact. Maybe let's
save that for the new year. Oh, no. Do you have
I'm
to
trying to think. No, we can save it. Just remind me. I think I'm out on the loamy. It caused a real issue for me, and I was trying to figure if I could just tell you about it now. But you're right. We should probably save that for another show if we can remember, because I still have my loamy here. In fact, Vives and I just kind of reinvested in it by fixing a part.
I remember that.
We had to get a fan or whatever.
Yes, I remember
had to beg them to sell us an overpriced fan to fix it ourselves, and then we were back in it. But now I really find the loamy that it makes, which I had been calling compost, and it's not compost. Everybody says it's not really compost. I'm finding it unusable, and so we can talk more about that. I will say, Melly's. I mean, this is going to be the most obvious thing anybody can possibly say, because here we are. It's the holidays as we record this. It's the last day of Hanukkah. I grew up celebrating Christmas, and I think the holidays, obviously, for most people, the most nostalgic time of year. And we also know that I think our sense of smell is tied to nostalgia. Mm-hmm. So this idea of holiday smells connecting us to memories or whatever is obvious and nothing new. But as Melly was talking about the smell of the old pine cones, like maybe you turn on your vacuum cleaner in February and there's still some of that pine scent that sort of blows out. It reminds me of one of my favorite smells that I'll never be able to fully recreate. And it basically is just I guess a piney smell, but very specifically, it was when I don't remember how and where my family would procure Christmas trees. We'd have like the Christmas trees, real Christmas trees, but not the kind you can replant. Mm-hmm. My dad shocked me with a story recently. There's this line of trees behind my grandparents. My grandparents and uncle lived next to each other, and there was this line of trees behind both their properties. I just found out a couple of months ago that those trees all started as Christmas trees. They were live Christmas trees, the kind that you would, and my grandfather would go out and plant it, and it was a straight line of trees that I remember.
What a cool tradition.
Yeah, right? Kind of cool, right?
Yeah,
but anyway, I remember, like, my favorite smell that I can never recreate isn't just the pine cone and pine needle in general Christmas smell, but very specifically the family, we would come home with a Christmas tree, or one would be brought home, and then my dad would go up into the attic somewhere, and I don't even, I'm so young at this point, I don't even know if I ever had been up the attic, but my dad would come down with like the same cardboard box of Christmas lights and decorations. Yes. And I remember specifically, like, it wasn't even Christmas Day. We weren't excited. There were no real toys in there, but we were just so excited to see all of the ornaments. And some of them were like those super heavy Sesame Street character ornaments we had. But also, like, for me, it was those really big outdoor bulb lights, the colored, they were a string of Christmas lights, but they were the kind, again, that maybe this is a very 80s thing, but they were big, alternately colored bulbs. And I remember those just looking like candy. I can hear them. But what the box would smell like would be like last year's Christmas or every Christmas before. And there'd always be a little bit of like dried pine needles in there. But it also, the attic must have been cold, because I remember it also, like, my dad would open the box and it was almost like, and I feel like I'm exaggerating this, but like it felt like the cold air was coming out of the box as well, and the smell that went along with it. And
it was like, but also like dust and like cardboard, and also maybe
cardboard,
a little bit like mice. There
maybe
a little bit of mice in there.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes.
But you're right about the cardboard for sure.
Wait, so question: was it a plain box? Because I remember the boxes. So in the pre-tote eras. I remember the boxes from the holidays being very special because they were the boxes that old objects had come in.
Oh, interesting.
So, like, my whole life, we had this animatronic Rudolph that was like it took like 5 double D batteries or whatever, and it just like scooched on its little legs, and it would sing a little song. And so every year we would get it out of the box, and it was still in the box that had come in from like JCPenney circa 1985. And so the box itself was also really part of that. And then many years later, we got an additional little dancing dude that was a moose. And then it became a holiday tradition for us to make them fight. And then we would like yell at them like it was like a cockfight. We'd be like, go, go, go.
It turned dark.
Well,
our family dance.
No, our family is really into doing things our own way. But
we gave each of them a little knife or shiv.
I mean, you really have to get creative with what you're shivving, but a candy cane can be sharpened down very quickly.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point, especially a mini one.
But I do feel like the boxes that stuff used to come, like the decoration box was, some old box from, Myron Frank or some like long gone department store. I feel like was also part of that, and it made that smell too, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't remember what was on the outside of the boxes, but I will add a couple of more just dazzling memory details here. I do remember, like, my family was very persnickety about this exact kind of thing, as I've mentioned on the show many times. And so, yeah, I do remember, like, we had the specific set of Sesame Street ornaments, and I believe that those were in their original box. I can still remember, like, it had that crinkly sort of see-through foil or whatever, and you open the box, we could see them in there, like the little window. But I'll bet you $1 million that whatever the big box was that all this stuff was in, or the boxes, do you know what glass tape is? And I'm just sort of remembering this now. My dad had... So you can picture like a moving tape dispenser, right? The kind with a handle on it or something like that.
Yes.
Imagine one that is kind of like that, and it's super heavy because this is the 80s. It was probably made of pure metal, like actual steel. But the tape itself isn't as wide as that. The tape is basically about as wide as Scotch tape, maybe a little bit wider.
Sure.
But it was called glass tape, and it had like some sort of, it was like reinforced. It was like you literally would not be able to tear it like this.
It
had threads in it running up and down it. So it was like indestructible. But the ends of that stuff would also start to, like, when it stopped being sticky because it was in the attic year after year after year, the ends of it would sort of dry out, and the tape would get a little bit stringy and frayed at the ends. And so I can remember that being a part of the Christmas box as well. Yeah, or like seeing the places where the tape failed and just eventually peeled off because it just lost all stickiness after years and years. And to think like that stuff does not exist anymore. Like my sister might have some of it. I mean, my dad might. I kind of doubt it, but it certainly is not. It's a diaspora of Christmas ornaments and decorations because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's no potpourri that can unless, I don't know, maybe you go stash some old pieces of cardboard in the attic for a few years and then snip them up and throw in a scented pine cone and maybe you'll be set.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is for people who love smell and nostalgia. This is definitely the time of year. This is definitely the time of year for us. And like you said, Hannah, we will leave it there for the year 2025, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And don't forget, Hannah will be on TBTL, aka Too Beautiful to Live, with me on Monday. That's the daily podcast that I do. And you're going to be my special guest. And I think what we're going to be doing is looking at cleaning lists. We've been putting together lists for that show. And the working idea right now is maybe for you and I to come up with lists of some of our most satisfying things to clean. We might adjust that if we come up with a better idea, but if listeners want to join along, and if you enjoyed this kind of content, check it out next Monday. Thanks for doing it with me, Hannah. Appreciate it.
I love getting to do TBTL because I'm there. I get to be the guest, so I just get to show up and sort of be delightful. I don't actually have to do anything else.
Yes.
So it's nice.
Well, you will be posting the show that day. You will be making the video of it. You will be updating all of our socials.
Always putting me to work, this man.
It's something. But all right. But we will also be back here on Spotless on this channel in a couple of weeks. Weigh in on your soup smells, how you mitigate them. Have you ever been called out for a smell that you're carrying on your clothes?
God.
Has anybody ever asked for you to smell their clothes as a smell check, and how did you react? There's plenty of stuff to talk about, and plenty of ways to get a hold of us. We'll tell you about that in a second. In the meantime, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We will talk to you soon.
To the Spotless Podcast. If you have a question for Hannah and Andrew or some cleaning advice, call the Spotline at 508-HOW-WASH. That's 508-469-9274. You can also email them at spotlesspod@gmail.com. We'll be back soon. But until then, always remember, life is messy, but it doesn't have to be.